Okay. Next item on the agenda, action on security plan for the airport.
The airport has a security plan. It's inspected every year by the State Aeronautics Board. But that security plan consists of keeping people out of the airport. It consists of a fence to keep people out of the airport. If I say anything wrong when I deliver this, Chris, please let me know. Okay? Why am I talking about a security plan in a business plan? Everything in that business plan has to do with revenue and expenses. If there's going to be a security plan, there will have to be financial assets made available, and that will affect the business plan. There's an FAA handbook for airport managers that I am looked up online, and I'm waiting to get a copy of it. But it discusses that the airport manager in the post 9/11 environment should develop a security plan. Now, the federal government does not oversee small airports. Small airports here in the state of Tennessee are overseen by the Department of Transportation Aeronautics Board. Last week I discussed the need for a security plan. Our airport right now is supervised from dusk, from 8 o'clock in the morning to dusk on most days. At night, the airport's wide open. There is nobody watching the airport. There's no records of tail numbers of aircraft that come and go. Night landings are unrestricted. We have aircraft in our hangars registered to a deceased person, and I'm not talking about your father. And there are aircraft registered in the hangars to companies that don't exist. The plateau has long been a destination for people flying drugs in here. Rosenthal, at the time when he was busted, that was the largest bust in terms of DEA manpower there ever was. And what he did is he flew in, and he flew in to 4 locations. One of them was Rockaway on a regular basis. They would drop their loads, and then the month that he was busted, they dropped anywhere from 600 to 1,000 kilos on each drop. They would then pay the people $10,000 and a kilo to take it to a safe house, and then drive it down to Pompano Beach, Pompano Beach, or however you pronounce it. There's a lot of people here in Crossville who go down there. That drugs that they paid those people off with was then sold locally. It came into our state. There's been 2 other major drug busts up here in the mountains. We have had 1 interception by the DEA in our airport. It never hit the newspaper. I don't know how many phone calls I've got on things, and some of them were pretty bad at the airport. We pay our city police and we pay the county police to try to get a handle on the drugs here. It seems to me that when we put people at risk to do this, that we're falling short of the council's responsibilities to secure our own airport. I have had numerous complaints, some so bold as to see armed people guarding the gate down there while aircraft have landed. We have the authority and ability to shut down the airport at night. That would be counterproductive to those businesses that use our airport at night. The question is, do we want to design and have an oversight program that initiates a security plan in force? Or do we want to leave it wide open? I know how Councilman White is going to vote. He said at the last meeting that if people don't like the drugs around here, they can move.
I don't think that's exactly what I said, Mr. Sue,
I think it's on the
but
table.
it's close, yeah. I
Okay.
think I can tell you.
Okay.
I said, if you're that afraid of drugs here, I probably wouldn't move.
Okay. So it's up to this council. If this council doesn't desire to secure this airport, so be it. I make the following motion. The city manager is directed to put together a comprehensive airport security plan and bring to council the proposal plan January 2016. It's now up to this council whether they want one or not.
I have a motion. I'll second that for further discussion. Mr. Bennett, you'd like to speak?
Can I just say a couple of things?
Yes, please.
One, the TSA does come every year and checks the airport, go around and look at everything, and they're happy. And some folks from Nashville do come, and they kind of show us what to look for, planes that we suspect anybody might be carrying drugs in the daytime. We're not there at night. But I do know the city police makes pretty scheduled rounds at the airport. I'm not opposed to us sitting down doing a security plan, but I don't want folks thinking that we walk out of there at dark every night and no one ever looks back at the airport. See, I think the police has a pretty good presence during the night out. That's all.
Thank you. What was the motion?
To have the city manager come up with a comprehensive security plan by January or at January 2016 and bring it to the council.
Chief Shope, is this something you feel like we need, or do you feel like you're doing a good job overseeing this at the current time?
I work at the pleasure of the council,
Being political.
Yes, Chris.
I want to add one more thing.
Sure.
If council says he gets these reports, it would help if he would contact the chief. So these people can be contacted. If there's armed people at the airport, then we need to contact Department of Homeland Security and TSA as quickly as we can, so they can talk to those folks who saw that. That's really important. It's very important.
I have taken action.
Well, I've never had any of those phone calls, so
I want to make something clear. The security plan can take many forms. It could be cameras. It could be somebody there present 24 hours a day. It could be recording all the tail numbers that come in and go out. It doesn't have to be a policeman sitting there all the time. It just depends on what this council wants or doesn't want.
I have a motion and a second. Any more questions or comments? Roll call vote, please.
Let's
Whoa, 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 whoa. Yes,
It's
sir.
open to the public as well.
Yes,
Can I approach?
yes.
First of all, I want to say that I don't have any friends among us that I know of that have anything to do with this whatsoever, and I have no enemies.
Can you state your name, please?
I don't think that's important at this point. I'd just like to speak on behalf of the public.
Okay.
What I'd like to, say in reference to that is I've actually been following these, audios. I was actually looking at videos online and y'all done away with the videos for whatever reason, that's fine. You have not done away with the
We've
videos.
never had video.
No, actually, somebody's put them online. I don't know who it was.
The media's on,
Okay.
we've never done
And I kind of saw, how things work here and became a little bit interested when I run across this issue. And I'm not the type of person who's going to come up here and point fingers or anything else, but unless there's a point of fact behind it and I can prove where it came from. So what I'd like to first of all say in reference to the last question is I actually called TSA. And I actually called the FAA who referred me to TSA. The TSA referred me to the Tennessee, I think it's the Tennessee Department of Transportation Aeronautics Division. That's exactly what it was. And they told me that the only security for this type of airport, since we did not have a control tower, is their office. And what they do is they conduct an investigation once a year, and it is not a very in-depth investigation. In fact, the person I spoke with told me he randomly flies into this airport at night, fuels up, and then goes back home from here without ever meeting anybody. So I assume it's after dark. So what's been brought up here is true. The airport is uncontrolled, and I bring that up, because my family's been a victim of drug abuse in the past, and I became a single parent because of it. So I do have a major concern with it. And Mr. White, I'm sorry that you made that statement. I think that's offensive to think that if I'm concerned about drugs in this area, that I need to move. I think that's appalling. So I wasn't going to say that tonight until you brought that up.
I understand.
And I hope you would retract that remark and make it more clear if you don't truly believe that. I've got a few things here to say, and I hope it's not too lengthy. I'll try to shorten this down as much as possible. And this all comes from y'all's last two work session audios. First of all, I'm going to try to keep them in question, so that in question form, so that nobody feels like I'm hitting against them. Also, I will say that the audio was pretty civil compared to the last administration's meetings, that were a kangaroo court, to say the least. So I will say that I voted for almost all, if not all of y'all. There's one, I can't remember, but I think I may have voted for all of y'all, so I'm glad that it was somewhat civil. Ms. Harris, I did hear the argument that you just made, and I did hear you cut Mr. Seuss off. So I do want to make that for the record, and maybe you'll go back and apologize to him, and maybe that'll get straightened out. But I'm not familiar with parliamentary procedures, but if you weren't supposed to cut him off, you certainly did. And I don't vote, I'm not against him again, I voted for you. I know that for a fact. So what I have to say are facts based on what I've heard on these audios. First of all, my question is, why was the airport manager, Norm Westerbo, I guess that's how you pronounce his name, who was a direct employee of the city of Crossville and not a contractor, fired just before Crossville Aero? And again, I don't know you, Mr. Bennett. I've never met you before. I don't even know anybody that knows you before that. So this is not against him as well. In fact, from what I can find in my research, according to him, he never even read his contract. We'll talk it to in a second. And that's according to what supposedly he told Mr. Sousa, and he didn't deny it when Mr. Sousa brought it out on the audio, so I assume that's true. But what I want to know is why was this previous airport manager fired? Again, he was a direct employee of the city. His pay, I believe it was part-time, for what I understand, that may not be true. However, in your audio, you said a direct hire employee, and I couldn't tell whose voice that was, would have cost the city $75,000, and that was based on salary of $50,000 plus 1.5 times benefits. Okay? The new airport contract states that the airport manager, Crossville Aero is paid $79,000, $4,000 more for an employee who is under the authority of the very person who hired him. This airport contractor is if he is a direct employee, then we should be able to show clock in and clock out records to prove that that position actually exists and that the monies are not just being funneled to the very person that hired him according to the contract. Now, I realize nobody on this panel or on the council voted or wrote that contract. So what I'm alluding to will come here in just a minute. Why was the entire airport committee fired from their position just prior to Crossville Aero's contract, thus removing the last remaining day-to-day oversight of a multi-million-dollar airport? Why did a 2008 independent auditor, again, independent auditor, state in their report, and I quote, "There was no advertisement for proposals prior to the new fixed-base operator," talking about Crossville Aero, "being selected for the Crossville Memorial Airport August 30th, 2007, with contract terms more favorable than those given to the previous operator." Okay, that's an independent contractor that this city hired. Mr. White, I'm going to try to give everybody a question here with the exception of the mayor, other than how do you like babysitting in your new position? Mr. White, compared to the old fixed-based operator contract, profits and fuel flow sales were cut by 1/2, from 10% to 5 gallons. The contract term went from 2-year term and requiring a full council vote to a 14-year automatically renewable contract with no ability for the council to do anything. The previous FBO contractor was not provided expensive machinery owned by the city either. Okay, so yeah, then Crossville Aero was paid an additional, and Mr. Sousa, I think you said $900 and something thousand. That figure is based on 14 years, which at $79,000 is an additional $1,106,000 given to Crossville Aero for a position that they hired to supervise themselves. I don't think anybody in this room or anybody on that committee or on the council can tell me that that is fair to anybody, especially since you did not give it to the previous person who owned the contract for that same job. Since this was uncovered by independent counsel, or excuse me, independent auditor, and certainly has the appearance of corruptions, have you or any of your, or anyone that you know of, asked for law enforcement to step in to prove or disprove this as being a possible illegal action?
Mayor, if I may,
Yeah, I was gonna refer this to the council.
Okay.
just as I've advised you in the past, it's not a debate with the public, it's a public comment, it's in really public comment period. You don't have to answer questions. This gentleman's been recognized to talk about airport security. We're way off that topic. Mayor, you're the chair, so I'll yield to you.
This question started about 10 minutes ago and it ended up, you wanna go ahead and read me your last sentence? I don't care.
Well, that was the last one for you. Do you know of anybody, not just you, do you know of anybody who has brought this
Yes.
to
let me
law
answer-
enforcement? And I'm not picking on you, I'm gonna ask everybody one
Can
question.
I answer that?
Sure.
We asked him sometime back, can the FBO and the airport manager be the same person? And your ruling was,
That's what was contracted, correct, and that's what was in the,
and that's legal.
And I will say that this does go back to airport security because the management of the airport entails airport security. If that person is managing the security, then we're talking about the same thing.
I'd like to address that too while that's up there if I could. We're sitting here talking tonight like this thing's wide open. We've got a pretty good fence that we paid a lot of money for out there and gate.
No, I understand, and that's what the aeronautics division told me, was for me to make sure that I knew that that was only to keep people off the airport that were not in an airplane. So while they wanted me to make sure I knew that, I'm not 100% sure. So anyway, I'll hold off on my other questions till the point of order that is not on airport security. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We had a vote, Mayor.
I think we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Souza,
Yes.
Councilmember Wyatt,
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Harris,
No.
Councilmember Curley,
Yes.
Mayor Mayberry.
Yes. Motion carries. Next item,